Welcome to the Harmia podcast. Before we start solving pagan problems, I just want to say that Harmia is all about empowering natural and purposeful living through everyday spirituality. So for you to find and grow into your best self, I recommend you sign up for the Harmia membership's newsletter. We'll soon launch, and if you too want to learn about authentic Indo-European paganism and see this spiritual and personal growth, then sign up for the newsletter on harmia.foundation/membership. harmia.foundation/membership. So in today's episode, we're going to help solve what I sometimes call a spiritual headache. You know the feeling, you've just discovered something meaningful, maybe it's your native spirituality or a path that finally speaks to your soul, and at first it feels like everything's falling into place. You're reading, you're learning, you're practicing, and then suddenly it's too much. Too many opinions, too much content, and you start to wonder if you ever really understood any of it at all. That's what happened to a fellow pagan who actually wrote to us recently. Their story might sound familiar. It's about spiritual fatigue or information overload, the spiritual crash that can come after an awakening, and how that person almost walked away from it all. So today we're going to talk about spiritual fatigue and information overload, why it happens, how to recognize it, and 6 ways to gently return to clarity, purpose, and peace in your practice. So let's begin with this person's story. Hi Harmia. When I first found my way into my native pagan spirituality, it felt like coming home. After years of feeling unseen in the faith I was raised in, asking questions that no one seemed willing or able to answer, I finally felt like I was connecting to something real. Something that spoke to me not as a sinner or a follower, but as a living part of a larger sacred world. The old stories, the land-based rituals, the sense of ancestry, it all just made sense. I threw myself in and tried to learn everything at once. I devoured books, podcasts, blogs, online communities, anything I could get my hands on. At first, it was exhilarating. I was absorbing so much, and for the first time in a long time, I felt spiritually alive. But slowly, almost without realizing it, the excitement turned into exhaustion. It all started to blur together. The more I read, the more conflicting information I found, and the more tired I got. Conflicting teachings, endless rabbit holes, and way too much New Age fluff dressed up as authentic tradition. And then one day, it just hit me. I felt like I didn't understand anything anymore. All the clarity I thought I'd found was buried under all the noise. I started to doubt everything, not just the sources, but myself. Like maybe I'd just been fooling myself into thinking I ever got it in the first place. I stopped learning, reading, and practicing altogether for a while. The very thing that once gave me meaning and that had once brought me back to myself had now become overwhelming. It made me feel totally lost again. What do I do? Okay, so that's spiritual fatigue or information overload, if you prefer to call it that. And this person definitely isn't alone. I've had several people asking me about this lately. So today I want to share 6 ways to move through that kind of overwhelm, to return to your practice without the pressure, without the noise, and with a sense of grounded clarity. So first of all, a bit of background and insights and information, etc. If you're feeling discouraged, disconnected, or stuck in a rut on your new or your spiritual journey, you may be experiencing spiritual fatigue, a common yet often misunderstood challenge on the spiritual path, especially at its onset. Here and now, we'll take a look at what that is and how to deal with it. We've all come or will come to a point in our learning curve where we feel overwhelmed, weighed down or confused or even frightened by everything that has to be learned and taken in. We sometimes come to a blocking, or it might feel like we're actually losing insight rather than gaining it. This is bound to happen when you're trying to unlearn a foreign worldview and discover or rediscover your own ancestral one later in life, instead of being raised with that understanding from childhood as was normal and should be normal. A lifetime's worth of information being crammed in over the course of a few years will no doubt burn someone out at some point. The ardent and genuine seekers will persevere regardless. In today's hyper-connected society where information and content is readily accessible everywhere, the sheer volume of spiritual material can become overwhelming. As you navigate new ideas, practices, and beliefs, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the flood of information, leading to a sense of information overload. Also known as infobesity, infoxication, and info paralysis. And that blocks progress. The brain can process a certain amount of information presented in different methods. The brain processes the information you gather each day from reading a newspaper, following directions on a map, or having a conversation with a friend, etc. When there is too much information to process, and as we attempt to learn and absorb vast amounts of spiritual information or information in general, the brain can only process so much before it hits a breaking point. Spiritual fatigue is a type of exhaustion that arises from the constant pursuit of spiritual knowledge and growth. It's common to feel spiritually drowned and as if you're not making progress or that you're stuck in a rut. Many people also face the struggle of distinguishing between what's essential and what is simply more noise. In a sense, it causes paralysis, where you're unable to process or act on what you've learned. For those rediscovering an ancestral worldview or spiritual path later in life, this fatigue is even more common. You're not just learning something new, you're actively unlearning ingrained patterns and beliefs that have shaped your understanding of the world for years. For individuals raised in a religious or cultural framework that didn't resonate with them, embarking on a quest for deeper answers later in life can, of course, sometimes feel daunting. Spiritual learning is a positive and enriching endeavor, but the overload of information can backfire. It might feel like you're falling short or losing ground. While learning and growth are essential parts of the spiritual journey, hitting this wall is often part of the process. It's actually a natural phase in the learning curve. The brain processes information through various stages. First, it absorbs the material, then it reflects on it, And finally, it integrates the new insights into existing knowledge. With time, your brain will choose what information is crucial and what's not. Again, this is not a failure, but a signal that your brain needs time to process and integrate the new knowledge. Realizing, understanding, and accepting this is a critical step in fostering a more grounded, peaceful, and resilient spiritual life. So, what to do? How can we help our fellow pagan? How to deal with this spiritual fatigue and information overload? I will now mention 6 ways or 6 tips for how to overcome this stagnation and get out of paralysis. The first one I call acknowledge, admit, accept. The trick to overcoming information overload is distancing yourself enough from your feelings to acknowledge this. So observe your feelings without judgment. Realizing and understanding that this is the case is one of the most important steps. It's always better to know what's going on than to wonder what's going on. Acknowledge and admit to yourself, and perhaps even to others who are on a similar path. It's great to talk to others, that this is what you're going through, that this is the stage you are at right now. And even seek community support. Others with the same experiences can provide valuable insights and encouragement when you feel lost. This is something we do a lot in the Haminga community. The next one I call take a step back. The internet, social media, articles and books, they never say, "You've had enough, now go away." So you have to do that. One of the most effective ways to combat spiritual fatigue is to take a conscious break from reading, studying, and consuming information. An hour, a day, a week, a month. It's up to you and what you need. There's no shame at all in stepping away from the endless stream of information. Just as physical muscles need time to recover after intense exercise, so does your cognitive and spiritual self. Recognizing the burnout and admitting it allows you to honor your limits and give yourself permission to rest, recharge, and recover. Over the course of a few weeks or even months, your subconscious will sift through and organize the information like it does during sleep. And you will come back to it with a renewed understanding and appetite to continue learning. I promise you. Next one, meditation and mindfulness. Meditation is a powerful tool to combat information overload. It allows you to quiet the noise in your mind and center yourself. Mindfulness too helps you remain present and focused on the now, rather than being consumed by the pressure to know and understand everything at once. And both meditation and mindfulness is something we're going to teach a lot in the Haminga membership. So the next one is get out. When facing information overload, stepping into nature offers a refreshing break. So take a break and get out in Mother Earth's embrace. Seeing nature in action, whether it's trees swaying, birds flying, or streams flowing, that grounds us in the present moment. In fact, paganism isn't something else than life and nature itself. It's not something beyond this. So getting outside and connecting with nature is one of the most tangible ways to witness spirituality in action, not just reading about it, and learning that way instead. Unlike reading about spirituality or viewing it online, experiencing it firsthand engages all the senses, offering calm and clarity that screens or books they can't provide. Next, do something else. Shift your focus to activities that bring you joy and peace and that align with your purpose in other ways than intensely studying to deepen your spirituality. Engage in everyday activities, spend time with loved ones, enjoy your hobbies, reconnect with your body through exercise. Interestingly, spiritual truths often instead actually start revealing themselves in your daily experiences, not when you study them. It often happens afterwards. That's actually the same as I often hear people asking me or telling me nothing happens when they meditate. They think that they don't learn anything, and nothing happens. Nothing happened when I was meditating. The thing is that nothing should happen when you meditate. It happens, but it's unconscious, and it will come out afterwards or with time. Okay, the next one. Integrate and internalize what you've learned. Sometimes in our learning, we have that feeling of that we don't understand a thing, or that we're even about to lose all the knowledge we've taken in. A terrible feeling. To integrate and fully understand insights, it's actually a great idea to share them. Write or speak about what you've learned. It helps the brain to find out what's the most important. It helps solidify your insights and to see where you might need more clarification. Teaching others or putting your learning into practice is a highly effective way to overcome spiritual stagnation. That's also why we have the community, so we can share and in that sense also internalize it in ourselves. And there you have it. 6 ways to overcome spiritual fatigue and information overload. If this person's story resonated with you, if you've been feeling the weight of spiritual fatigue or drowning in information, I hope today's reflections gave you some grounding and perhaps even solved some of your headaches too, so you can slow down and reconnect with what really matters to you. Remember, your path doesn't have to be perfect, impressive, or packed with knowledge. It just has to be yours, rooted, alive, and real. And if you're feeling called to build or rebuild your practice with more structure, support, and spiritual nourishment, you should definitely take a look at the Haminga membership. Until then, the divine in me bows to the divine in you.